We are jumping right into a truly monumental, honestly mind-boggling task today, organizing the sheer chaotic beauty of the entire animal kingdom into one neatly structured biological family tree. Seriously, just think about the sheer diversity of life on our planet for a second. We're talking everything from microscopic insects to literal blue whales. So how in the world do scientists make sense of it all? How do we find the patterns hidden in plain sight? Well, that is exactly what we're going to unpack today. Let's trace the brilliant blueprint of life.
Here's our roadmap for this explainer. We will start by defining the animal kingdom, and then move on to nature's sorting rules. Next, we'll watch the invertebrate parade, enter the chordates, and finally, look at the classes of vertebrates.
All right, Section 1, defining the animal kingdom. What actually makes an animal?
So, Kingdom Animalia actually has some surprisingly strict membership criteria. To be an animal, an organism must be multicellular, meaning it's made up of more than just a single cell. It also has to be eukaryotic, so those cells actually have a nucleus. And, absolutely crucial here, animals are heterotrophic. That's just a fancy scientific way of saying we have to consume other organisms for food. We can't just synthesize our own lunch from sunlight like plants do. But here is my favorite part. Unlike plants, animal cells completely lack cell walls. And that lack of a rigid cell wall, it is the literal reason animals are so wonderfully mobile. It's exactly why we can dance, or run, or fly.
Moving right along to Section 2, Nature's Sorting Rules, the Biological Filing System.
Biologists use 5 main criteria to organize this immense diversity of life. First up, the level of organization. Are we dealing with a loose collection of cells or highly complex organ systems? Second is symmetry. Is the body layout asymmetrical, radial, or bilateral? Third, we look at the germ layers that form during early development. Fourth is the coelom, which is the body cavity. And finally, number 5, the notochord, a flexible structural rod that actually acts as a massive dividing line in the animal kingdom.
Let's zoom in on those germ layers for a second, because this is fascinating. Think of germ layers kind of like the foundation of a house. Diploblastic animals have a very basic 2-layer setup, an outer ectoderm and an inner endoderm. Simple enough, right? But triploblastic animals, they add a crucial third middle layer called the mesoderm. And wow, is that an evolutionary game changer? That third layer is the upgrade that gives rise to all the complex plumbing and wiring, internal organs, muscles, and complex circulatory systems. Next up is the coelom. We can contrast the complete absence of a body cavity, which biologists call an acoelomate, with the presence of a true body cavity or a coelomate. Now, why does this matter? Well, a true coelom allows your internal organs to grow and move entirely independently of your outer body wall. Basically, it's the reason your heart can beat without your actual chest physically popping outward with every single throb. Pretty great design, right? I should also briefly point out there's a middle ground here called a pseudocoelomate, which has a false cavity, and that acts as yet another major dividing line we use for classification.
Which brings us to Section 3, the invertebrate parade, exploring the non-chordates.
Starting at the absolute baseline of this parade, we have porifera, the sponges. These are purely cellular survivalists using a really unique water canal system. Step up just one evolutionary rung and we find cnidaria, organisms with actual tissues, radial symmetry, and those infamous stinging cells called cnidoblasts. Right next to them are the Chitinophora, or comb jellies. They also have radial symmetry, but they boast a seriously cool quirk, bioluminescence. Yeah, they literally glow in the dark. Finally, wrapping up this group, we have Platyhelminthes, the flatworms, which are triploblastic but still acoelomates, meaning no body cavity, which is exactly why their bodies are so distinctly flat.
Now think about the structural upgrades happening as we continue. Aschelminthes, or roundworms, feature that pseudocoelomate false cavity we mentioned earlier. But then we hit the segmented worms, the annelids. They introduce metamerism, which is body segmentation and a closed circulatory system. That is a massive leap forward in biological engineering. Then we have mollusca, which are soft-bodied creatures usually protected by a shell, cruising around on a muscular foot. Echinodermata includes your spiny-bodied starfish, which operate using this incredibly unique water vascular system. And finally, hemichordata, which are worm-like marine animals conveniently divided into a proboscis, a collar, and a trunk.
Okay, I actually want to pause the parade right here just to emphasize the absolute sheer scale of arthropod. This is, without question, the undisputed champion of the animal kingdom when it comes to numbers. Literally, whenever you see an insect, a spider, or a crab, you are looking at an arthropod. They owe their overwhelming runaway evolutionary success to 2 defining features: jointed appendages, which give them elite mobility, and a tough, chitinous exoskeleton. It's essentially nature's own impenetrable, lightweight suit of armor.
Moving on to Section 4. Enter the chordates, the VIP club.
So this brings up a really fascinating question about our own biological lineage. What essential features separate the chordates from the rest of the animal kingdom? Like, what actually gets an organism past the bouncer and into this VIP biological club?
Well, to get in, you absolutely need 3 specific biological hallmarks at some stage in your life cycle. Rule number 1, the presence of a notochord, that flexible rod providing structural support. Rule number 2, a dorsal hollow nerve cord running right along the back. And rule number 3, paired pharyngeal gill slits. Now, while chordata does include some simpler subphyla like Urochardata and Cephalochordata, it is primarily famous for its third, highly advanced subphylum.
And that takes us to Section 5, classes of vertebrata, climbing the ladder.
All right, brace yourselves for something bizarre and, frankly, kinda unsettling. Meet the cyclostomata. These are the most primitive vertebrates on Earth. They are entirely jawless fishes that literally survive as biological vampires, latching onto the outside of other fish to feed. It's incredibly primitive, sure, but you can't argue with results. It's a highly effective way of surviving.
As we upgrade to what we think of as proper fishes, a massive divide emerges. On one side, you've got contrichthes. These are the cartilaginous fishes like sharks and rays. They are entirely marine and actually lack a gill cover. On the other side, we have osteichthyes, the bony fishes. And these guys evolved a spectacular biological cheat code, the swim bladder. It acts exactly like an internal scuba buoyancy device, which ends up saving them massive amounts of swimming energy.
Next up, life makes a truly monumental leap out of the water and onto dry land with the class Amphibia. They live a true dual life. They absolutely require water for reproduction, but they can live comfortably on land as adults. They rely on their moist skin for respiration and, crucially, feature a 3-chambered heart. That's a huge, vital upgrade from the simple 2-chambered hearts of fish. Then we have reptilia, the creeping and crawling animals. And notice the key evolutionary shift here. Reptiles entirely severed their absolute dependence on water by evolving dry, cornified skin. This is what allowed them to push inland and conquer harsh, arid landscapes. They also generally possess a 3-chambered heart, but because nature just loves an exception, crocodiles actually evolved a much more complex 4-chambered heart.
Coming in next are aves, which we commonly know as birds. This class is defined by highly specialized traits that completely enable flight. They have feathers, wings, a fully ossified bony endoskeleton, but here's the craziest part. They feature pneumatic bones, meaning their long bones are entirely hollow and filled with air cavities. This keeps their bodies incredibly lightweight so they can actually achieve lift and fly. It's an absolute engineering marvel of biology. Finally, we bring the evolutionary journey all the way home to us, mammalia. What actually makes a mammal? It comes down to nourishing our young through mammary glands, the presence of hair on our skin, mostly viviparous reproduction, which just means we give birth to live young rather than laying eggs, and a highly specialized toolkit in our mouths known as heterodont teeth. We have different shapes of teeth, like incisors, canines, and molars, all designed for totally different jobs. It's like having a Swiss Army knife in your mouth.
And that brings us to the end of our journey today. Think about this. You are a multicellular, eukaryotic, heterotrophic, colimate mammal with heterodont teeth. That string of words perfectly, exactly maps your coordinates on the vast tree of life. But here is the provocative question I'm going to leave you with today. Evolution hasn't stopped. Given our specific environment today, what do you think the next structural upgrade on our branch of the family tree is going to be?